Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Truth about a love story. Now, if you had ever asked me, Alex Blue, how I had met the love of my life, my best friend and the bestest husband a man could ever wish for, Steve Hartwood, then I would have told you exactly what I had told every single person on this beautiful planet. We had met one night at a university party, we had kissed and danced, and that was the whole story. But it wasn't. So I think it is time that I actually tell you the truth about how I met my husband, how we fell in love, and how we met in the very first place, because it's sweet, emotional, and very, very embarrassing in places, but I truly believe that is why we fell in love. It all started at the university Christmas social, as I mentioned earlier, that part one never lied about. I was standing next to one of the ugly sterile white walls that my university seemed to love back in the day. I was talking to one of my lecturers, who was basically a great friend of mine back then, because I was useful, smart, and if he needed something then I would help him. I always loved being helpful, and the lecturer, Steve, might have been 7 years older than me, but he was fit in his tight black business suit that highlighted all the right things, including his biceps, six-pack, and all his other lovely muscles. Hell, I'm a man, so I'm allowed to have little impossible crushes. Anyway, the Christmas social was in full swing in the small lecture theater, with all the modern wooden desks being moved into the storage rooms, or being pushed up against the 3 other sterile white walls. I liked watching the clueless undergraduates, which I was also one, in their jeans, shirts, and 2 people even had suits on, as they flirted and tried to chat up girls and boys alike. I had to admit that a lot of the women looked lovely. My best friend Addie looked stunning in her little black dress that came down to her knee, and I had already noticed 3 men try to slide a hand up her skirt. I was definitely going to be watching Addie tonight, just to be on the safe side. I always looked after my friends. The sweet aromas of chocolate, strawberries, and mint filled the entire room, which I loved, from the chocolate fountain the department had hired out for tonight. I would have imagined that the students would have swarmed the fountain, but it was the lecturers that were emptying it into their mugs. I really did love university, and I loved socials even more. Everyone was so relaxed, and it just proved that at the end of the day, both staff and students were there to help each other and work together, not against. When do you go back for Christmas? Steve asked, flexing a little like he had a back problem. I smiled as my wayward parts pressed like a soldier wanting to escape prison against my trousers. He was so hot. At the end of next week, I'm looking forward to it. It'd be nice to go back to Surrey, see my family, and meet up with my friends. What about you? Steve grinned a little. Actually, not a lot. You know I live in Sea Salter, but my girlfriend broke up with me, so I'm spending Christmas at my nan's. Oh, I said. I was rather surprised actually, that it was all I could say, because it just didn't seem right. Me and Steve had been friends for ages, and I knew he lived about 20 minutes from the university. He really did love his girlfriend, and it just seemed like such a shame. Steve just smiled at me, and I had to admit that it was one of the most beautiful smiles that I had ever seen. His teeth were pearly white, perfectly straight, and I so badly wanted to hug him. Only to offer him emotional support for the breakup, of course. Are you okay? I asked. Steve laughed, and it was such a beautiful sound. Trust you to only be interested in how I am. How you're single is beyond me. I was about to comment, but then I realized how he had said that. I had never heard Steve say something so carefully, so intensely, and with so much passion behind it. It was almost like he really truly couldn't believe I was single. I looked over to Addie, who was dancing and smiling with a rather cute first year. It was just a shame he wasn't as cute as Steve. Well, it isn't through lack of trying, I said, looking at Steve's wonderfully bright, alert eyes that looked at me like I was the most important thing in the entire world. Sometimes dating's just hard, you know. Why did you and your girlfriend break up, if you don't mind me asking? No, that's fine. It was just that we didn't have much in common anymore, and we were interested in different people. I cocked my head and gestured we should move over to the chocolate fountain, which is another little detail I lied about because of what happened next. I nodded my respects to the group of female and male lecturers as they left the chocolate fountain with mugs and fruit and even pieces of donut drowned in chocolate. I picked up a small plastic cup filled with strawberries, and I held it under the fountain. I loved watching my cup fill with the rich, silty smooth chocolate. What do you mean, you were into different people? I asked, watching my cup. I realized I was into you. The words slammed into me, and I jerked, tipping the chocolate-filled mug over myself. Piping hot chocolate poured over my shirt and warmed up my skin. I hissed in pain but got oddly turned on at the same time. I'm so sorry, Steve said way louder than was needed. I just looked around, as everyone at the Christmas social was staring at me, and some people were laughing. I gave everyone a polite smile, and I just got out of there. I started walking along the wide, open corridor outside with those weird blue carpet tiles that all English places of education seem to love. I just had to make it to the small kitchenette that was around the corner. I'm sorry, Steve said, rushing up behind me. I couldn't believe this was happening. This was a nightmare. A great friend of mine had confessed they were into me. I had warm chocolate dripping all over me, and now everyone was laughing at me back at the social. This wasn't fun. I went through the small white fire door up ahead and went over to the ugly silver kitchen sink. I turned on the water and tried to clean myself up, which wasn't easy because the chocolate was starting to harden, unlike my dick at the moment, and it was everywhere. Steve came through the door and sat up on the counter next to me. I looked round at him, and by God, he looked so damn hot in that tight suit. He looked even cuter now because he looked guilty, ashamed, and like he felt awful about embarrassing me. I thought you liked me too, Steve asked. I grinned. It was just a shock, okay? Yeah, I like you a lot, and I think you're fucking hot, but what happened? Every conversation we've ever had has always been straight, and you love your girlfriend. What happened? Steve laughed, and he started gently stroking the back of my legs with his shoes. Which felt weird at the time, but I really did love him touching me playfully, so I didn't mind it too much. I grabbed a couple of blue paper towels from a pile next to the sink and tried to use them to clean me up. Me and Lisa loved each other a lot, but we were just lying in bed one night, and we both sort of said at the same time that we didn't love each other. I love women, but I don't know why, but I like you. I really don't know why, because you aren't my normal type, but what I do know is I really, really like you. I grinned to myself as he sat there in silence, and I could feel the tension, chemistry, and romantic interest flow between us. It wasn't exactly the most traditional or even normal way that a man had confessed to liking me before, but I did understand it. I understood that when it came to love, sometimes you did just like people because they were great, they were cute, or you were just drawn to them for an unknown reason. Love wasn't a science, and love wasn't something you could always predict. I know from experience that can be damn annoying at times, but it's also what makes love wonderful, fun, and exciting. By this point, my shirt was soaking wet, it was sadly clinging to my body, and I hated the wet feeling of it all. There were even chocolate marks still on the shirt, so I was sure it was ruined, but I turned around, and I couldn't believe how beautiful Steve looked as he stared at me. His stunning eyes were wide, his suit highlighted everything I really liked about him, and he was just perfect. And I realized in that moment that I didn't really know why I liked him either. Sure, he was stunning, had wonderful muscles, and he was everything I liked in model-like and striking guys. But that was all lust. I didn't like him romantically for that. I think I liked him romantically because he was so kind, supportive, and just a great person to be around. Steve was the first person I had come out to when I had come to university. Steve was the person who said sweet things to me, and he was the person I just loved hanging out with. Maybe I had always liked him a lot more than I ever wanted to admit. Maybe we had both been blind before now to see it. "You look wet," Steve said. "Did you want me to dry you off?" As Steve grabbed a tea towel, I just grinned like a teenage boy as he wrapped his strong muscular legs around my thin waist and he pulled me close. Our dicks touched, and I almost jumped out of my skin at the sheer electrical and sexual tension that flooded my body. Steve slowly started to wipe my shirt with the tea towel, getting lower and lower on my body before he touched the area we both wanted him to play with. He teased and teased and teased me until I went insane and moaned more than I had ever done before. And then we fucked for the next hour in that small kitchenette until 3 lecturers came in as they came in for their own fuck session. A lesson to be learned: always lock the door during sex. So why do I lie when people ask, how did I meet my husband? I don't actually know. I always tell them about the Christmas social, but I don't tell them about the chocolate fountain, how me and Steve first had sex, nor how those university lecturers had caught us. I don't tell anyone those bits, and maybe it's because me and Steve aren't proud we basically fucked straight away. Maybe it's because we want people to think we had a certain type of slow, passionate relationship that was based on feelings and emotions before we ever started to think about sex. But the real reason is a lot simpler than that. It's because those are our times, our memories, our precious private moments that I don't want to share with anyone else. I love Steve and Steve loves me, and that's all we need. We met 5 years ago, and it has been the best 5 years of my life. We still dance, kiss, and have sex at every single social the university department has, and we had a lot of non-adult and adult fun throughout the year too. We've been living together for 4 years, and that has been sensational. Steve makes me breakfast, we have sex, and we have plenty of time together. We talk about research, holidays, and everything we want to do together, and I love every single moment of it. You might be wondering what the university thought about a lecturer dating a student, but it all worked out fine. The university simply said make sure no one finds out, act professionally at the university, and they don't care what else happens. And that first year when I was finishing up my undergrad and sneaking around with the man I love, that was almost as good as the sex. So now you know. You know the truth about how I met my husband, and we got married last month in a beautiful little Christmas-themed wedding that was everything I could have wished for. Of course, everyone asked how we had met, how we had fallen in love, and how we were the luckiest people alive, and me and Steve had smiled at every single one of them. Because we loved each other, and only you know the truth about our love story, and that is how it's going to be forever. Which me and Steve don't have a problem with, not a problem at all.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.